Hi everyone, this is Miss Serio. I know my voice sounds really bad. I am at home with pneumonia and I will not be coming back until probably next week. The doctor says I'm not allowed to go back until then. So please bear with me in my disgusting coughing. I'm going to try to go through some of the stuff in your notes packet so that way when I get back you're not so far behind. I think that this is like the first page of your notes packet, and this is about solving quadratics by graphing. So you're looking at how many solutions does a quadratic have. Remember, quadratic just means you have an exponent of a 2, and it has that U shape, that parabola shape. So for your first couple like vocab blanks, the solutions to a quadratic function can be found on the x-axis. And what you're looking for on the x-axis is places where the quadratic touches. Remember, when you have a curve that touches the x-axis, that's called an x-intercept. Other names for the x-intercepts are roots, zeros, and x-intercepts. Sorry, not x-intercepts, I meant solutions. And solutions. Okay, so in the first picture where you see it says no solution, that happens when you have no x-intercept. So if your graph never touches the x-axis, that means if I were to look at the equation of the graph and I were to try to solve for x, you would have no solution. One solution, so if you see the picture there, you have one x-intercept. And then if you have two solutions, you have two x-intercepts. So the number of x-intercepts that you have determines the number of solutions. Solutions are if I were to take my graph and make an equation of it and solve for x, those are my solutions. Okay. On your calculator, you can find the solutions. So if you graph the equation that it gave you, that one right there, you can just put it in the graph, and then if you go to trace and then graph trace, you're going to scroll side to side until the calculator gives you the word 0, and it'll give you a point. The point that it gives you is one of the solutions. So in the case of this graph, there are two solutions. If you go through that graph trace on your calculator, you should get a solution at 3, 0 and a solution at -1, 0. Okay. If the equation is in factored form, so that means that you have two things in parentheses side by side, you can find the solutions by setting each of the factors equal to 0. So there's something called the zero product property, and it means that if you have this form where you have two things or three things or however many in parentheses side by side, and you set it equal to 0, you can break those parentheses off into groups, and then you can solve for x independently. So what I mean by that is I'm going to take x minus 2 and set it equal to 0, x plus 3 equal to 0, and then you're just going to solve for x on both sides. So I have x equals +2 and x equals -3. If I were to write those as a point, you would get 2, 0 and -3, 0.